Okay, so I started this channel, A Journey to Miracles, a while ago. And a lot happened after I started it, as can often be the case. And I started to feel like I didn't quite have the insights that I was looking for. And so I went and have been listening to a lot of additional material, reading a lot of additional material that's a little bit lighter and brighter. Sometimes the Course in Miracles can sound a little heavy. And even more than that, I started to realize that despite studying it for several years, and I met multiple people that had been studying it for years, I wasn't seeing the shift that I was looking for. And you shouldn't always, of course, judge your experience on what other people are doing, but I felt like something was missing, at least in the way I was viewing it. So I've been studying a lot of Esther and Abraham Hicks. This is very positive material. So one thing about the Course is it can get a little heavy and a little dark feeling at times. And so I just went to something that was just really positive all the time, because I was also going through some heavier stuff when I started studying this. So I think it was part of that energy. Since then, I've fallen in love. Since I started this channel, I've gotten married. I'm in a new house. And I've come to this place where I'm really focusing on being happy. And I've really bridged the gap between this work, the Course in Miracles, and other work like Abraham. I've also gotten into Neville Goddard and a few other things that are really sort of enlightening it in a new way, and realizing that the Holy Spirit isn't really something outside of myself. It's really my non-physical part, what Abraham would call a inner being, my inner being portion of me that's leading and calling me to good things. And really the main thing is to focus always on good things. So I'm coming back to this work. I'm going to start again. I'm going to start where I left off, but with fresh eyes, and I think with a greater understanding of what this material is talking about. And so I left off at lesson 52, so I'm going to pick up at lesson 53. And then I'll be doing some readings and uploading as I go, because this is part of my daily reading again. So I have started sort of a 30-day journey, which will become much longer, I'm sure, but about just focusing on being happy and all the good things that come from joy and from living in joy. So we'll see how that works in here. All right, lesson 53. It's a review. Today we will review my meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. It sounds a little dark, but now I'm getting what this is actually getting at. It has a negative tone, it almost sounds like. So my meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. Since the thoughts of which I am aware do not mean anything, the world that pictures them can have no meaning. What is producing this world is insane, and so is what it produces. So I just uploaded the Laws of Chaos, and that helps shed light on what it means when it says the world is insane. Reality is not insane, and I have real thoughts as well as insane ones. I can therefore see a real world if I look to my real thoughts as my guide for seeing. And this is where this work from Abraham is so key, because what gets you to your real thoughts is happiness and joy, not judgment, not saying, and sometimes this can be like, well, that's meaningless and that's insane, and it's a little bit heavy on the verbiage. So rather than saying real and unreal, I'm going to say my happy thoughts, my joyful thoughts, my satisfying thoughts, my satisfying energy is going to call me forth to seeing a satisfying, joyful world. What this is talking about is that I'm creating my reality with my thoughts. And so it's really important that I choose the right thoughts, but I didn't really get the clarity of what real thoughts, how I get to those. And now I'm realizing it's all about vibration. It's all about happiness. It's all about this emotional scale. So if you're down at number 22, in fear, despair, depression, and powerlessness, it's really a power game. So if you're in powerlessness, you gotta want to get up here to 1 where you are empowered. You are gonna see a completely different world. That's what it's talking about. These are meaningless thoughts. You're gonna see things in such a different way when you're coming from that place. And we wanna see a happy, joyful, empowered, free world, don't we? We think it's things outside of us, but it's not. It's 100% what's going on inside of us and inside of our minds. All right, number 2, I'm upset because I see a meaningless world. That is upsetting. Insane thoughts are upsetting, as it says, and they're down there at the bottom where most of the world is vibrating. Insane thoughts are upsetting. They produce a world in which there is no order anywhere. Only chaos rules a world that represents chaotic thinking, and chaos has no laws. I cannot live in peace in such a world. Okay, so when I look at the world and I'm feeling or thinking based off what I'm looking at, and the world is insane, then I'm automatically not going to feel peace. So this means the news, social media, even though we're on it here, all that stuff, anything that generates a bad feeling in you is going to cause you to not have peace. So this is really a game of choosing what you're looking at and choosing your feelings, which is a little bit of a different game. Trust me, I'm in it, and it's interesting. It's not as simple and easy as it sounds. But I shouldn't say that. That makes it more difficult. It is simple and easy. I'm complicating it, but I'm working through that. I'm grateful that this world is not real, and that I need not see it at all unless I choose to value it. And I do not choose to value what is totally insane and has no meaning. And Neville Goddard's work, my book is in the other room. I'll probably bring that in next time, but it's all about your I am, which is your imagination is your imagining device of God, and that really we're creating the world around us and we're living in a world of imagination. I couldn't believe he said it. He was from the 40s and 50s, way before any of this other work. So you start to realize that we're just sort of rediscovering something that other people have discovered again and again. But when we're creating from a place of lack of accountability, lack of power, powerlessness, fear, we don't realize we're creating, and so it creates an insane world based off those laws of chaos. And that gets into, the laws of chaos gets really deep into creation and what's really going on here. And when you connect that your imagination and your imagining device is actually a creating device, it makes sense how we're creating based on the laws of chaos. We're creating all the time. We're creation machines through our thinking and our feeling, which is actually, feeling is a vibration. It makes sense. It's totally scientific and physics that vibration like attracts like. And so if something's beautiful and we're in a bad space, we can't see it. And we're continuing to create based off those insane laws. That's why it's so important to get attached to your Holy Spirit, your inner being, your spiritual center, and create from that place at least 5 to 10 minutes a day. Abraham says 15 to 20 minutes. That's the meditation I do now, but we know this work also contains meditation every day. It doesn't need to be long. Number 3, a meaningless world engenders fear. Fear is at the bottom of the vibrational scale, not where we want to be creating from. The totally insane engenders fear because it is completely undependable and offers no grounds for trust. Okay, and trust is a big part of this conversation. Trust is actually the same as faith. When we have trust, we're having faith. But we can't have faith in a world that's filled with chaos and makes no sense, which I think all of us can easily see at this point. It's like things are folding in on themselves, even when they're good causes. They seem to be having bad results, or oppressive results, I should say. So something's off. Nothing in madness is dependable. It holds out no safety and no hope, but such a world is not real. Thank God. It's just sort of in our imaginations, because we're in our imagination world here. I have given it the illusion of reality and have suffered from my belief in it. Now I choose to withdraw this belief and place my trust in reality. In choosing this, I will escape all the effects of the world of fear because I'm acknowledging that it does not exist. And this sounds really weird, but when you add the component that you are creating the world with your thought, and if you're creating from fear, you're going to see something totally different than if you're creating from number 1, freedom and empowerment. It makes a lot more sense. And since your source, or inner being, or Holy Spirit, is always up here at number 1, and that's all your source ever sees or experiences, it tells you that that is the real world. That's where all non-physical, everyone who passed is generating from. That's where we emanate from. That's where we're going when we die. That's reality, the joy, the beauty, the love. When we're down here, we may be creating ugliness, but it lives only in this world of imagination. And that's what this book is getting at, that this isn't really reality, but we can bring reality here. And that's how we're bringing heaven and hell here on earth. It's really only an earthly condition, and it depends where you're living, right? Sickness, disease, suffering, all down here. health, joy, fulfillment, abundance, money, anything you want up here. And so those are the things that are of the real world. And while everything of this world passes away, there are things that are really created here that are very real and continue on that aren't physical. So friendship, love, connection, creation, inspiration. That's what this book is getting at. And I never saw that before. So sorry, I'm sort of going to be sideswiping a bit more or stepping into other material more, because I think it really brings greater depth to this material. This can sound, it really unlocks it, I should say. I think it helps to break out the really divine potential in this book. So number 4 for review, going slow today, forgive me. God did not create a meaningless world. In the world of your mind and your thoughts and your feelings create reality. Remember, God is the power that creates worlds that's directed by your focusing mechanism, and that's your mind. That's why what you focus on grows. The Taoism is another one that has incredible wisdom as far as this form of God, which makes so much more sense. It's not a dude sitting out there, right? It's a force of creative force that you're directing through your imagination and through your power of focus, your mind, and your emotions. So God did not create a meaningless world. And just so you know, so you might say, well, if I'm thinking bad thoughts, then isn't that God creating it? Because God created evil here. Remember, everyone who's passed, where you come from, where you're going back to, all of them are creative beings, and they're all helping us create here. And all of that is God. We're all sort of part of that same God force. And so they are not creating anything negative. It's really just an illusion of this world while we're here, if that's what we're focusing on and what we're vibrating at. How can a meaningless world exist if God did not create it? He is the source of all meaning. Oh my God, it uses the word source just like Abraham. That's crazy. It's capitalized. Source is capitalized in this work. They don't use the word God at all. It's way too fired up, obviously, or any of sort of those heavy laden, but it's source. It's always called source. So how can a meaningless world exist if God did not create it? He is the source of all meaning, and everything that is real is in his mind. I'm so excited. I haven't read this work in so long, and coming back, I'm like, it's blowing my mind, because it's exactly, I don't know, I see it in a different way. It's exactly what I'm studying. So everything that is real is in his mind. So there's a greater one mind. We think we're separate. We're not. We don't have private thoughts. Thoughts are happening to us. We're sending and receiving mechanisms. And when we get high enough on the vibrational scale, Abraham will say it all the time, you will pick up on the thoughts of source. And the thoughts of source hold all the power. One who's vibing up here is more powerful than millions. And that's where the thoughts of God are, the thoughts of source. All good, all love, all awesome. And when we feel bad, this is important, it's because we're not thinking in alignment with our source, which is our inner being, which would be the same as the Holy Spirit in this work. But again, you're out of alignment with the thoughts of source. So you're not thinking God thoughts. You're thinking other thoughts. That dissonance between the God thoughts you could access and your inner being is thinking, and the ugly or lower vibrational thoughts that you're actually thinking, is what causes us emotional pain. So our emotional reactions to things or moods are actually our guidance, showing us like, don't think about that anymore. That's not how Source is thinking about this, right? Source loves everyone. Source always has hope and joy and knows that good comes out of everything. Doesn't mean you're bad for dropping down on the vibrational scale. It just means it's guidance, like get back on track. We use it. We aren't using it effectively. Okay, so it says here, everything that is real is in his mind. So high vibration thoughts. It's in my mind too, because he created it with me. Why should I continue to suffer from the effects of my own insane thoughts when the perfection of creation is my home? Let me remember the power of my decision and recognize where I really abide. I'm getting emotional. I didn't realize like the work I did would open this book up so much. I'm so excited. All right, number 5. My thoughts are images that I have made. Here we go. I'm creating. Whatever I see reflects my thoughts. It is my thoughts that tell me where I am and what I am. The fact that I see a world in which there is suffering and loss and death shows me that I am not seeing only the representation of my insane thoughts. The fact that I see a world in which there is suffering and loss and death shows me that I am seeing only the representation of my insane thoughts. and am not allowing my real thoughts to cast their beneficent light on what I see. Holy crap, it's saying exactly this. I'm blown away right now. Yet God's way is sure. The images I have made cannot prevail against him, because it is not my will that they do so. My will is his, and I will place no other gods before him. I didn't understand it that way. I'm blown away right now. What that's saying is, when Jesus was here, if you want to use him as an example, you could use Buddha. Really, you could use any prophet. We haven't seen a bunch of them, but they were able to heal and bring things back to life, performing miracles, which this book is getting at, because they were up here. These things that it's talking about, so suffering and loss and death, just because I'm seeing those shows me that I'm not thinking with God. If I was thinking up here with God, like a true creator, then it wouldn't even be in my experience, because God only sees life. And we don't realize that it's our minds and our eyes and what we're focusing on and what we're feeling when we're focusing on things that are creating those realities. There's a lot of accountability in this. Okay, I'm gonna say that, a lot of accountability, because when you begin to realize your thoughts have this much power, the power to sort of kill or bring back to life, depending on your emotional scale. I mean, it's a really intense way to think about it, but that's exactly what this is saying, and this work is really getting at. When we look at people, we need to always be thinking positive thoughts. When we look at situations, we need to be thinking positive thoughts. When we're at work, we need to be thinking positively about our bosses, about our work, about our husbands, about our wives, about our partners, kids. It's so key, because when we have negative thoughts about them, we're actually contributing. It brings us down on the vibrational scale. We worry, we blame, then we look at things, and the negative power of those creative thoughts, I don't really want to use negative, but lower vibrational power of those negative thoughts actually impacts the people around us. This is why judgment and criticism need to just out of here. We're going to do it sometimes, but this is why we're getting the results we're getting in our culture, even though abundance abounds in our culture. Our abundance here in the West is outrageous. So why are we sick and depressed and anxious and medicated and all of these things? Because we're still living down here. We haven't realized, we have not connected that our thinking and our feeling is creating our reality. And once we do, yes, it takes accountability, but look down here, powerlessness, empowerment. That's a power game. How do you get your power back when you are trying to go from powerless to empowered? You take accountability. Take it from me. I have a really harsh example I could use, but I'll save that for later. But basically, when you think things are just happening to you and you're feeling powerless, it really sucks. But when you go, hey, that happened to me because I did this or that, I set it up, then you get a little bit of power back, and you can get up to empowered, even in the worst situations, when you begin to realize how you caused it to happen. We don't like to have that conversation, but accountability is how we get up this scale. And this is a huge accountability conversation in a beautiful way. And it's not that heavy, where accountability can feel heavy. It's simply saying, you need to feel happy. That matters. You need to think happy thoughts. You need to learn what thoughts make you feel better and which ones don't. And don't judge yourself. Don't get caught up in all of that, because that's just more worry and blame and guilt. Stay out of it. Just be like, I'm thinking about that. Maybe I shouldn't be looking at this. That's not making me feel so great, and my emotions and my thoughts matter. And of course, as we go forward, I'll dig more into this. But that's today's lesson. Forgive me, I'm super excited what I'm garnering from this work now, and I'm going to be jumping it back into it with you and bringing what I've learned. So hope you got something out of that. Know that I love you, and there's something really in here that we can unlock in a whole new way. I just know it. Have a great day.